Mike from the Christian Left here. I've been going through my list of recent blogs on xianleft.blogspot.com. There'll be a link in the chat. Actually, to this essay, and I found I had not recorded a video about fascist Catholic bishops. I wrote that on November 12th, and then it sat there. So I'm going to present it to you now. Hopefully it will get me noticed, but not demonetized, although I'm not monetized anyway, so what the heck? Just go with it. So, early this morning, I was early on the morning of Friday, November 12th, like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure. I was watching YouTube when I came upon a big think video by Jason Stanley on the 10 Tactics of Fascism. There's a link in the blog entry, and I will endeavor to put it in the chat too, in the comments rather. He literally wrote the book on the subject. I could not help but notice how most, if not all, of these tactics are in the toolbox of many, not all, but many conservative Catholic bishops. Let us consider these tactics one at a time. The goal of fascism is to prop up the leader. In the modern church, the leaders in question are the bishops and the archbishops who resist the Pope. So let's look at those 10 tactics. Tactic 1, the mythic past. I'm not referring to ancient times, but rather the time before Vatican II, when the church had a privileged position in cultural censorship. The video talks about militarism and the strangest voice calls itself Church Militant. I was wondering why I said that. There's a group called Church Militant. It's a guy in his basement or in his living room, and his mother helps him with his blog, and that's what they call themselves, and they're anti-Vatican II and Church Militant of the mythic past. Number 2, propaganda. The Vatican invented the term, which is before it was called the Roman Inquisition. Its primary vehicle is the Catechism. Some even use the latter as a source of reason rather than teaching. Many do not know the difference. Many bishops don't know the difference. A catechism is a teaching document. It's not an exposition of the truth. 3, anti-intellectualism. Again, in the past 200 years, we have had anti-democracy, anti-Darwinism, scholasticism rather than inquiry, and in later years, opposition to the reality about sex. As we're going through that, number 4, unreality. See number 3. This is especially true in the modern era when it comes to sex. Gender theory, also known as queer theory, the continuing belief in sacred continence, which is an attachment to the Adam and Eve myth, which even Jews call an allegory, and the belief that Roe v. Wade, and the unreal belief that Roe v. Wade can be overturned. They believe the states should be allowed to have the last word, and that even if Congress were to recognize personhood earlier than viability, the utter unworkability of an abortion ban that treats the fetus as a legal person rather than banning abortion as a medical procedure only. That was a run-on sentence. Basically, they think, we can just ban abortion as abortion. No. Unless you say it's the person both people in the abortions are people and one's a citizen, then you can't just. And if they're both not legal people, then they can't talk about the other person. But if they do talk about the other person as a person, then you can't just ban the abortion. You have to consider it murder, and that is unworkable. It would require things that people don't want to happen. I have videos on this. You should look at them because I'm not going to re-explain it all now. So, number 5, hierarchy. Do I need to explain this one? Let me first explain sacred continence. Sacred continence is the belief that you cannot celebrate or even receive the sacrament of communion if you've had sex the night before or that day. No morning nookie if you're a priest, with a married priest or just a communicant, because sex is the vehicle for original sin, which, it's not. The original sin is knowing who is evil. Saying, this person's evil. Blame them. That's the whole Genesis story right there. Just read it. It's not that we earned our doom because of sex. No, it's because we earn our doom because we blame other people. That is the knowledge of evil. So hierarchy is number 5. Do I need to explain this one again? Hierarchy exists in the diocese with the myth that the Pope is the first among equals, so that each bishop has autonomy. Unreal, because he is, for all intents and purposes, their appointing authority. Hierarchy exists in the clergy, but the relationship with the faithful is pure authoritarianism for at least some conservative priests, and probably all of the bishops or most of the bishops. And there's victimhood. The Romans, the Jews, the Protestants, democracy, and anti-clericalism, a response to anti-democracy with anti-democracy with anti-Catholicism in the U.S., the Americanist heresy, which is now doctrine in Dignitatis Humanae, and of late, the sexual revolution, gay marriage, contraception, and women seeking ordination. Victimhood leads to the victimizing of others. That was a list of the people who victimized them. The Romans, the Jews, the Protestants, democracy, anti-clericalism, which was a response, to anti-Catholicism did not just, wasn't about ethnicity. It was about the fact that the popes really did condemn democracy. And, people in America read what happens in Rome and said, can't do that. And have us not think that you guys are going to subvert the nation. So, so let's do 7. Law and order. In days gone by, books were forbidden, which is great for the authors after they could no longer be put to death by civil authorities at the command of the church. So the church wouldn't execute people, but they would say, execute him. That guy over there. Kill him. You can burn him at the stake now. Of course, conservatives are now burning books that they find in the library, and probably masks too. Of late, some bishops are going to using communion as a weapon to enforce compliance with what the bishops teach about abortion. The defiance in question of politicians, from the POTUS to precinct volunteers, is about whether to uphold the constitutional rights of women against the abortion police. Rather the endorsement of abortion, which few Catholics do. Catholics do not generally like abortion. People don't generally like abortion. It's something that people have to resort to, but nobody really loves the procedure. Well, a few do. But the bishops, they don't say, Joe, we believe you are for abortion. They say, Joe, you are countering our message. You are defying us. Don't go to communion. And they're punishing that defiance. They are law and order Catholics, or law and order bishops, and the Pope said, you can't go there. So there's no sin. And there cannot be a sin to disagree with the bishops. Saying no to the party line is not sinful. Telling the bishop he's a horse's patootie because he doesn't know about sex is not a sin. Again, it's not Biden's beliefs they object to, but his insolence. So, number 8, sexual anxiety. Clerical continence is based on the mistaken belief that sin comes through women, from the sin of Eve, who did not really exist. Sexual contact prior to celebrating Mass is forbidden, which is a real reason for celibacy, not the prophecy, not property, rather. This is based on a Neoplatonic asexual ideal. That ideal still colors the teaching of the Church to this day on sex. Newsflash, right? Asexual priests, which are about half of them, who are not well adjusted, which is less than that half, are a danger to children. Assuming that asexuality is a mark of holiness rather than simply part of natural variation is the true source of error. Being asexual and not embracing it is a profound source of anxiety for many clergy. What scares asexual men the most is the thought of allowing women into the priesthood. There was that whole, He-Man Women Hater Club in our gang. Yeah, that's the aces that's some of the aces in the clergy, especially the bishops. Sodom and Gomorrah, number 9. Gay priests do not mess with children. Immature asexuals do. But blaming gay priests is a deflection. Gay priests may attract gay teens or young men, but that is not child abuse, or certainly not pedophilia. There's another word for it, but most gay priests honor their celibacy, and those who don't likely find companionship in the priesthood with other priests. The reality is that being gay is natural for them, and being celibate or scruples about continence are not natural. Embracing married, gay, and lesbian priests, as well as demisexual heteros, would be a radical break from episcopal fascism. And 10. Arbeit macht frei. Bishops no longer have serfs, although they still demand obedience. The key question is whether we pray at their pleasure or they serve at ours. Some bishops, including the Office of Pro-Life Activities, are Republican Catholics. That's a big R and a small c. That's not a typo. Republican policy on poverty is that subsidies should be minimized to encourage the poor to work at very low-wage jobs. If they have families that will starve without their labor, so much the better. So make them work. This is the Republican orthodoxy that the bishops have signed, not explicitly signed on to, but that's part of the package of being a Republican. Pro-life Republicans mirror this attitude when they do not endorse higher minimum wages and a much higher refundable child tax credit, thinking that they should not have to subsidize the sexual behavior of women. They think women should simply not have sex, or if they do, not have abortions and suffer poverty as an incentive to quit having sex. This attitude must be rejected loudly, and raising the minimum wage and child tax credit support must be pursued as must pass pro-life measures. It is actually part of the theology of the gift promulgated by Pope Benedict XVI in Caritas in Veritate, in charity in truth, or in charity in truth. Also, there are actually many encyclicals that say, pay families a family wage. Give them more if they have more kids. If the actual bishops would do that, if they've got a Catholic school teacher and they have another kid, raise his or her salary. They don't do that. So they need to, do that if they want to talk about being pro-life. And that is my 15 minutes of fame on this issue. Thank you for your kind attention. There are 2 more of these tonight. This being March 3rd. Ta-ta for now.